Hi guys, it's Annaliese here, and my head is still reeling from Mr. J's ANTM chat on Cycle 18, which happened on Friday. I mean, you guys know I had to do a reaction video, right? Yes, so I'm basically gate crashing Jay's chat. Now, before I get into it, let me first apologise for the lighting. My ring light broke this morning, and I'm so committed to my YouTube videos that I'm doing it anyways. You should really see the setup I've got going on. But for all that commitment, it would be great if you would subscribe, give this video a thumbs up, hit the bell notification, and follow me on Instagram. So my original plan, I was going to edit down this hour-and-a-half epic chat into something manageable for YouTube, you know, kind of cut out the fluff and all of that. Turns out it was juicy from start to finish. So new plan. You have got a 4-parter coming your way. Yes, 4 parts of sipping, serving and spilling tea. Buckle up. Let me just insert myself into this chat. Oh, hey. Now I'm starting this chat from about 2 minutes in, where Mr. J is talking about how much he loved this cast of ANTM, and he's listing our names.
Girls, I just want to read everyone's names. Simone, Kyle, Sophie, Laura, Catherine, Candice, Mariah, Asmarie, Ebony, Louise, Alicia, Annalise, Ashley, and Jasmina, like all of you girls.
Did you catch how Mr. J just stumbled on Jasmine's name though? Rewind it.
Of all the casts, and I mean this 100% with all sincerity.
I don't know where you're going with this. I'm just like...
I want to say this. I felt like you guys were the group I wanted to hang with. I wanted to be friends with, but I was in this position where I was working, and you guys were the cool group. I don't know why. I just felt so connected to kind of all of you. And I know even Simone, I remember there was that moment where I was talking with her, you know, backstage at Toronto Fashion Week. And I really meant what I said in that moment. I was like, girl, you're gorgeous. And like, look at where the plus size market has grown to. Imagine Simone, like it was a situation where it's such a difficult pressure cooker for so many of you to kind of be in, and you're young. But I just wanted to start off and say, I loved you guys all, like in a way that I felt like I wanted to be friends with all of you. That was the cool thing for me.
That is so nice to hear from Jay, because we definitely did not know that That is so nice to hear from Jay, because we definitely didn't know that we were his favourites. And we definitely did not get that vibe while filming ANTM. Not from the crew, production, anyone. I must admit, I don't really remember the conversations I had with Mr. J. Like, God knows what was flying out of my mouth.
That's really nice. I'm already emotional watching it back, but that's so sweet. You know, it's really funny watching it back. I was so filled with like love and cuddles. This sounds really weird, but like love and cuddles like last night and this morning watching it. And I was like, holy shit, holy cow. This really
we can swear. It's Instagram Live. Holy shit, yeah.
Holy shit, this was really like an awesome group of people, and there really wasn't that much conflict. Aside from kind of obviously some stuff that got brought up, but it really is a really good group. And I regrettably have to say, like, Annalise, who's here, yay, she's in the chat.
And I saw the comments from Annalise. Like, I live for her, like
so
for her and her energy. And you know, I spend a lot of my time, well, I have before the pandemic, flying back and forth to the UK a lot for work. I love being in London. I love the UK. I love, like, Annalise, like, I've seen her. She doesn't even realize I've seen her on different things. I'm like, you go, girl. I live for her.
She is always the most supportive, positive little ray of sunshine. And
Absolutely.
So she's also doing these on YouTube. I think she's doing some catch up. I had to watch some of them because I was like, what happened?
Yes, Annalise is doing her recaps on YouTube. You absolutely have to check it out, because she is spilling tea too, which I love. And encourage, like, everybody has a story to tell. We all should be able to speak our truths. And that's really, you know, what this whole J chat is about. But there are tons of questions. Let's dive in. And so there's just so many. A lot of them are the same. So I was just like picking and choosing different people. But BMore_2012 said, why did they basically have British all-stars versus American newcomers? And Sophie, I already saw you answered him and said, this is a good point. Dive into it. What were your thoughts?
You know, also, thank you again for saying that, Mr. J. That was really nice.
I meant it, honestly.
You know, it's really funny. We didn't know. So I was in London and I was modeling with Store Models at the time. And I'd finished Britain's Next Top Model. That was a real mess, to be honest. Like, I had no idea what I was doing, no idea what was going on. And I get this call from America's Next Top Model producers. And in my head, I was like, oh, they just want me to be the next Tyra.
Oh, I love it. She was like, I went high in my mind. Exactly. Envision what you want to see for yourself. Go,
yeah,
girl.
so awful. My ego was like, yeah, okay, cool. Anyway, they asked to be a contestant, and I was like, man, this sounds awful to say, but I was like, I don't know. Like, Britain's was really hard and rough, and there was a lot of cattiness, and I just don't know if I'm up for it. Anyway, lo and behold, I say yes, and I'm on a plane to California. Right, I think I've been like once in my life when I was tiny. Had no idea what I was doing. I don't know if anyone said this, but did anybody ever talk about the word ice?
We've talked about it in past chats. So okay. Yeah, so being put on ice, you mean?
Yeah, so being put on ice means you can't talk.
You can't talk. So basically, for those who have not heard this term before, producers would hush at the girls if they didn't have a mic pack on or cameras weren't rolling. They would say, "You're on ice. You're on ice." Which means you cannot speak. You were only allowed to speak when cameras were rolling and you had mics on. But continue, yeah.
No, so we had no idea. I had no idea there were other they tell you nothing. I cannot.
Oh, you didn't know there were other girls from the previous Britain's Next Top Model? You didn't know that?
No idea until I got on
I didn't know that.
Yeah, and I saw Annaliese in the car and I was like, Annaliese, that's amazing. Like, oh my God. And I went to go say, I think somebody must have collected us from airport arrival sign, and I get in this car and Annaliese is there and I'm like, yay! And they're like, ice, you can't talk. And so it was the weirdest thing. And then the next minute we're in a hotel in Universal for a week where, I don't know if anyone said, but where you can't talk to anyone, you didn't have your phone, you didn't leave, and the windows didn't open. So it was like, yeah,
it's like literally going into a little bit of form, like quarantine, but even worse. No cell phone, no internet.
And you had you had no idea when you were going to leave. So one day we went on a road trip to the Grove and we went shopping. I remember that, and you do psych tests and medical tests, and it's really hardcore. And I remember just thinking, this is so different to Britain's Next Top Model. And I kind of saw some other girls from other seasons of Britain, but hand on heart, I don't know why we had done it before and the Americans hadn't.
That was one of the other questions from CL Barden. Said, I love Sophie from the beginning, so she gave you some love, but how was her experience different from America's Next Top Model than Britain's Top Model? And how was it, well, she also asked how you were recruited, which you just said, but...
Sophie's totally right, they tell you nothing. I actually talk about my ANTM casting process in one of my YouTube videos, so I will pop the link to that one right up there. I actually did know that there was going to be other British girls because me and Ashley had a phone conversation before we left for LA. I bumped into Jazz Meyer in immigration and then, yes, bumped into Sophie in the van, and we literally could not contain our excitement. I talked about being quarantined at the hotel before we even knew what quarantine was, but I completely forgot that we were there for a whole week. And I forgot that we went on these little day trips. Yeah, we went to the Grove. I so remember this, but we were always kept in small groups. It was never all of us together. And why was it British All-Stars against American newcomers? I don't really know. Obviously, ANTM All-Stars had just happened, so I'm assuming they didn't want to repeat that. Maybe they could have used newbie models from England, but I don't think that would have been very good. I also think that this was a great way to show that ANTM, or Next Top Model, is a global brand, which is always a good thing. I'll let you know my thoughts in a bit, but do you guys think that it gave us an unfair advantage? Let me know in the comments below, but right now let's find out what Sophie thought.
Do you think there was an unfair advantage? I think this was a shock to viewers as well. All the Brits had been on Britain's Next Top Model and all the Yanks were newbies. Did you think that was unfair?
No, I think it totally messed up the Brits. I think we all had this post-traumatic stress. I think it was really interesting. Like when we did photo shoots at the beginning, you saw for the first 7 episodes, the Americans killed it. And it looks like the Brits are just having a complete mental breakdown. And I think what happened was we'd been through it, so we were like, oh, we kind of got this, and yet the production value was so different. Like in America's Next Top Model, you weren't allowed to talk to the crew. In Britain's, you used to sit down with them for dinner. Britain's was very free, and I don't know, America's, it was a machine.
Again, Sophie is raising some really valid points. She actually thinks that it didn't give us an advantage because we were so traumatized from Britain's Next Top Model. And I kind of agree, but here is an interesting point from me. Now, all of the girls that were on Britain's Next Top Model came either second or third. I think maybe Ashley came fourth in her season. And I came like sixth or seventh. I always get confused as to which one. Anyways, the most traumatizing bit of the competition is definitely the later half. So I kind of skipped that, didn't I? I think that when you go to do this show a second time, we all had the thought in our head that you just want to do better than the first time round. And obviously that was going to be easier for me than some of the other girls who actually came a lot further in the competition. I think that it's only me and Sophie who did better on ANTM than we did on our cycle of Britain's Next Top Model. So I do agree that the traumatization could have affected our performance, or it definitely looked like that in the start anyways. But I actually think that regardless of production values being totally different on ANTM to BNTM, I still think that we had an advantage because we knew how reality TV worked. It was really easy for us to get used to like the interviews and diary room and the 4-day week and talking in sound bites. In fact, a really small example would be that we called those interviews that we had every 4 days in Britain's Next Top Model. We used to call that Bish Bash. So it's time to do Bish Bash. That's just what we called it. And we started calling it that on ANTM to the point where the crew and everyone started picking up the lingo. So yeah, we were basically schooling the US girls on how things went down. But this chat is about to get juicy.
Well, by then it was a machine, because in the beginning, girls would talk to crew. Like, it was very loosey-goosey early on.
Oh.
And we're going to talk about it, this chat, guys. There's lots of tea to spill. Yes, the show had become a machine, and there are a lot of questions asking, so I'll ask the questions. But behind the scenes, I mean, you were saying there was conflict in front of the camera, but not that much. But let me tell you guys, behind the scenes, the toxicity, the back-talking, the backstabbing, certain producers, how they would talk about on our show, what producers would say about talent, how they created these divides. I'm not even going to mention names. And I'll say, even though I know it was my last cycle, there were a lot of producers who up and left. Even one of the co-executive producers was like, I'm done. There were wars behind the scenes. People left this show. The show behind the scenes had turned into, remember, this energy is a top-down thing. And let me tell you, it stemmed at the top, and it was just an awful silo of negativity, and no one wanted to be a part of that really anymore.
Is this happened on our cycle?
Your cycle, yeah.
Okay.
We'll get to the questions, girl. I'll tell you.
Oh my God, this is so exciting. This is like, so I always thought that Tyra was really absent in our cycle. And I don't feel like she didn't want to be, I don't know what English says. I'm so excited. I didn't feel like she wanted to be a part of our cycle. And we didn't actually see her until quite far in to do like one-on-one things. And when it was very fleeting. And I just really didn't think, I thought she was just like done. Maybe there was stuff in her personal life, but I really didn't feel like she wanted us almost. Well,
it was like a check-in kind of moment. But again, I'll speak to how that kind of cyclone of negativity. So, I mean, it was a top-down thing. And there was a certain, I mean, there were several executive producers. I'm speaking about one who
does his name rhyme with Ben?
I'm not going to say, but I will say this. This was a person who is instrumental in being divisive, in a calculating way, not only just with contestants, but with everyone behind the scenes. This is a person who goes here, goes there. You know, Kelly Catrone was new. We'd had several new judges over the cycles, right? No issues integrating them in. But this was a person who would go to, okay, Kelly, you're going to be the da-da-da. You're going to be a this. Now so-and-so is like this. Avoid Miss J. She's like that. Mr. J is like that. Nigel's going to be like that. He, was very divisive. And to this day is that person. Look, I'm not here to like bash or drag people, but all I'll say, if anyone does figure out who I'm talking about, look at his history, go find other producers, people he's worked with. try and find positive stories. That's all I'm going to say. Try and find positive stories, because in our world, I've worked in the world of entertainment, and sure, there are things that happen behind the scenes. People don't get along, this and that, but we're all adults. We know how to work through things. And I've worked on E! And I've worked on several different shows. I've never experienced the toxicity that existed behind the scenes. And it came from a few people at the top. And then what do you expect when that's coming down? You create a pyramid of chaos, and you need to own up to what you created and how that affected everyone on a psychological level. And I mean everyone, producers, talent, the girls. It's not fair, and it wasn't healthy.
Wow, so the real reality show is actually on the other side of the camera. Oh. I mean, there's obviously been lots of talk about ANTM being quite toxic. And I've never really fed into that, mainly because I can only comment from my own experience. But watching this back, I'm actually now realizing that I think I glossed over a lot of this. I mean, it was a long time ago. I think that because I actually view the experience as being generally positive, like the highlight of my career, etc., I feel like some of the negative aspects have kind of melted away over time, until Mr. J does an ANTM chat with Sophie Sumner 10 years later, and it all comes back to you.
And that you really felt that happened on cycle 18?
Oh, I think it was the tipping point. We'd already spilled over. I mean, like I said, I only negotiated my last 2 cycles of 17, 18. It was just like, I spoke, and I'm still close with a lot of producers on the show. It created such a weird fear culture. Never experienced it anywhere else. I mean, not recently, but for years after, I had like a PTSD kind of effect from it. Like, you know, when certain people from the show, who I do not keep in contact now, would try and call me or reach out, you have this anxiety. And I'm not a person who deals with anxiety disorder. And I just realized, like, I need to do my own kind of, you know, get to a place where I'm healthy, and I don't want anything really to kind of do with that culture.
Good for you. Good for, but I don't understand why it all came to, okay, getting like really real here, to be honest, were they desperate for ratings? Like, why did
I think that definitely had happened early on. I mean, the ratings were falling. They tried to do the high fashion cycles. Everything was a change. Like, look at with this cycle, you know, I feel it was like throwing fucking spaghetti on the wall to try and make something work. Like, think about it. The theme song, fans were horrified. What happened to the famous theme song? It turned into this punk rock mashup. Can anyone even sing the theme song to this cycle 18? Nobody. You know, you don't do that to fans, right?
If I had to hear the word pot leader one more time, I was like, what is this word I'm saying?
I know. So, but let's dive. I love everyone saying down here, like, ooh, this is the real tea. We are going to speak the real tea. You know, this is the last American cycle I'm going to do. Again, a lot of people have asked if I would do Canada's Next Top Model, because I was the host and executive producer on that. I'm thinking about that, but I am going to do a big fan episode where I connect with all the fans.
I'll be there. I love this. I'm literally hearing this all for the first time, and actually it makes me really happy, because I'm not joking. Like, afterwards, it messed with me a bit. It messed with me, and it was toxic, and you couldn't put your finger on it, because the girls weren't bad, but the energy, and I'm like a big one for energy. The energy was wrong, and I'm so glad you said that it wasn't just me thinking. And also, I spent that whole, being deadly serious, I spent that whole cycle thinking that Miss J hated me. I don't know if anything was going on with her in production.
Well, I can speak for Miss J. I won't speak for, I don't want to take words and his thoughts, but I'm going to speak to what I experienced with Miss J, because Miss J and I were quite close. You know, Andre, the way he was even told he was no longer going to be on the show, I actually said it last Jay's chat. He called me up and he literally left a voicemail saying, ooh, I smell dead raccoons in the river. You know, that was his way of saying, again, the most unprofessional group of producers I've ever worked with, just creating all this kind of weird toxic energy. Andre, this revered editor who should be respected, etc., just like Paulina Porskova, is just kind of trashed and dumped. But beforehand, you know, you just feel this sense that you're about to be shoved out. The same way Miss J was a judge. He didn't know why he wasn't a judge the next moment. They gave him some stupid answer. I remember him coming to me like, what the hell? Then by this cycle, He's literally in like 5 episodes, and they just kind of, they don't even do a real runway teach. Tyra did the real runway teach with you guys. Like, why wasn't Miss J there?
And that was also the only time we saw her.
Yeah, and then that's kind of a weird thing, because that's Miss J's thing. Miss J knows exactly what he's doing. And look, Tyra's an incredible runway model. You can't take that from her. But like, why wasn't he there? There was just this now energy of, she wanted nothing to do with other people. It was very detached. It was very strange. Yeah, and everyone felt it.
So do you want to know something that no one knows? So one of my good friends from school went to a university in America and was at school with Tyra's stepdaughter. And I'm sure Tyra like knew this. Not that it should make any difference, but afterwards we definitely had like some kind of connection. I never heard from her. I heard Alison last week saying that like she'd heard from her and stuff. It was like,
Not a surprise.
I'll tell you later what happens after you win. It's wild.
Oh yeah, because there's a question about it. Yeah, we'll talk about it because it happens every cycle, and I want you to describe your experience. And I was there in the judging room. I know exactly how it is, but I want to hear your thoughts around that. We'll get to that at the end, but there's tons of questions here. So G Chan Wan said, can you confirm that Sophie was supposed to get brown hair and then she looked to camera because it was in her contract, and that's why she got pink hair? Also, there was a rumor that there was supposed to be another British girl, and you said, ooh, definitely can talk about this. So interested to know where you heard this. So
everyone always wants to know this about Sophie's hair. I actually don't remember this happening. Or maybe I knew and I forgot. I don't know. And as for being another British girl, yes, there was a gorgeous redhead, long red hair. Her name was Amelia. I think she was from like cycle 7, I want to say, of Britain's Next Top Model. She actually ended up leaving because she didn't really appreciate the whole quarantine experience at the hotel. Sorry.
G Chan won. I'm so excited I can't sit still. You did, Mr. J. I'm sure, if my memory serves me correct, you were like, it's coming short and you're going darker. Do you remember this?
To be honest with you, I don't remember a lot from Makeover Day of this cycle. And I think it was, to be fair, I knew this was my last Makeover Day, and literally Miss J, myself, we were just told to show up and win. We weren't a part of anything behind the scenes. I used to produce on this show. I wasn't producing a thing, not even the final runway, which we'll get to. Like, I literally showed up on a call sheet and was just told, this is what you're doing, and I just spoke. And it was awful.
Makes sense why the photo shoots were so odd.
They were crappy. Even the first photo shoot, I felt bad. I had a bad cold too. Oh my God, it was like awful. I had a sinus infection.
Which was the first
on the trampoline.
When I was dressed as Margaret Thatcher, I remember, and like
with a dodgy wig.
You will have this in the real world. I was like, I don't think I'll ever have this in the real world. Like,
ever. But back to the makeover, the brown hair. See what happened.
So you said to me, you looked at me, or it's very high emotion. It's very high emotion all throughout the series. I'm sure everyone realizes that. And you looked at me, and I'm sure you said, we're going to go short. Now, I was signed to a modeling agency in London, and one of the things
I do remember this because you talked about the modeling agency. Okay, you totally jogged my memory. Yes.
And I knew what you guys would do. It was going to go short. It was going to go dark, like whatever. And I just got back blonde and all this, blah blah. So I remember looking down the camera and I was like, I want to talk to a producer. I'll go pink, I'll go cotton candy pink, but you're not cutting it and you're not dyeing it dark. Because it takes ages for it to get that blonde, which I thought was quite strong of me at the time. And then you scuttled away and then you came back and we filmed it and you were like, you're going cotton candy pink. And I was like, oh, cool.
Well, at that time, again, everything was so directed by producers. I mean, even the setups, like in early cycles, when the girls would show up in a location, they'd be surprised. Their reaction when they walked in, that was their honest reaction. You guys know what would happen. You'd be shown a room. Here's where you're walking. Here are your marks. Land there. Like, you guys knew. I mean, I would be standing and be like, hey, okay. Then cameras would go on. Then we'd roll for real. Like, by this time, it was such a formulaic mess that nobody knew what to do, because the people trying to piece this together, there were other producers trying to, who were kind of yes people to Tyra, and several other producers, and it was just like whatever. I was like, oh, yeah.
Wow, Mr. J, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize that your last one was. I wish you'd ended on a nice, like it was nicer for you.
But I did end on something nice because I really loved you girls. I remember even just sitting down and chatting with Annaliese the first time, going, oh my God, I feel like I know her. Like I went to high school with her, even though I'm like way older than you guys. But yeah, it was like so.
You literally look way younger than us, by the way.
You guys though made it better for us.
Oh, that is just so sweet. Like, obviously we didn't know that this was Mr. J's last ANTM, but it all makes so much sense now because the energy was so off, and I am all about the energy. Arrival shots were the worst. If you didn't do it right, they'd make you do it over and over and over again. I actually talk a little bit about that in the recap I did of the Dorchester Prize Challenge. I mean, something I forgot to put in that video though was that production messed up that runway show. Like, there was issues with music, it was super late, there was gaps between models and designers. Like, if you were watching that show, you would have thought it was a hot mess. But obviously they kind of smoothed it out with editing, etc. I mean, it only makes sense now that Jay said that this was the most unprofessional production team he's ever worked with. Again, apologies for this lighting situation. My ring light has been ordered. Watching this ANTM chat was really like a therapy, and we are only on part 1 of 4 parts. I'm going to try my best to get the next 3 parts out in the next week, so please do subscribe and hit the bell notification so you don't miss out. And in the meantime, you can binge watch my previous ANTM recaps as well as checking out my new Model Diary playlist. I'm going to get on with recording part 2 right now. See you later.